No single policy, government department, organization, or program can tackle or solve the increasingly complex social problems we face as a society. Opioid use and abuse is a complex problem that's affecting our entire state, every community, and each individual. It cuts across the continuum of care and does not discriminate by race, gender, age, geographic location, or socioeconomic status. It is a crisis, a public health emergency, an epidemic. But together, we can do more. Together, we can change. The Community Collective Impact Model for Change, or CCIM4C initiative, is a highly innovative approach aimed at reducing opioid-related deaths in the state of Ohio and increasing access to treatment for opioid use disorder, including medication-assisted treatment. Through grant funding awarded to the state of Ohio under the Federal 21st Century Cures Act, the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services is pursuing this unique initiative, funding 12 communities from across the state to participate. The department also partnered with the Ohio University Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs, the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation, and Prevention Institute to form the CCIM4C Leadership Team. This team is developing a comprehensive, trauma-informed approach to address the opioid crisis, creating all of the necessary content and materials to move the initiative forward. The team is also engaging the funded communities in project-based learning and guiding them through an enhanced strategic planning process, while providing training, technical assistance, and evaluation services along the way. Together, the leadership team and the 12 funded communities make up our CCIM4C Learning Community, a community of people working collectively through regular interactions to learn from one another and improve strategies for addressing community trauma and the opioid epidemic in Ohio's communities. The CCIM4C initiative is a unique, integrated approach for our communities to use when addressing the opioid epidemic in their communities. We start with the collective impact model, which recognizes that no one sector or agency can address the opioid crisis alone. Instead, we need to work together across the continuum of care and break down traditional silos. To do so, communities must agree on a common agenda and common progress measures, maintain continuous communication, and pursue mutually reinforcing activities. Now, this may seem like a tall ask, but one of the biggest strengths of collective impact is empowering a backbone organization to facilitate this work in each community. Our 12 funded communities, including 7 boards, 2 coalitions, 1 prevention provider, and 1 health department, are serving as the backbone organizations for their respective communities, receiving training and assistance so they can provide support at the local level and foster multi-sector relationships that span the continuum of care. But collective impact alone can't get us to where we need to go. We need to apply different lenses to collective impact so that, when combined, our communities have complementary tools to tackle this very complex issue. The first lens we're including under this initiative is the Strategic Prevention Framework, or SPIF. The SPIF is a data-driven strategic planning process that includes assessment, capacity, planning, implementation, and evaluation, while keeping sustainability and cultural competency in mind at each step. The SPIF has been a mainstay in prevention work in Ohio, and many of our communities already use the SPIF for their own projects and initiatives. Incorporating the SPIF gives us a roadmap for community-level change that's rooted in data, while still realizing that collective impact needs to occur at each stage of the strategic planning process to enhance our efforts. But because the opioid epidemic is such a multifaceted issue, it will take more than collective impact and the SPIF to address the trauma that is created by and contributing to the crisis. Therefore, the second and third lenses we're utilizing under the initiative is the Tool for Health and Resilience in Vulnerable Environments, the THRIVE, and the Adverse Community Experiences and Resilience Framework, the ACER. The THRIVE acknowledges that there are many structural forces in the community environment acting against positive community-level change. By approaching the strategic planning process with the 12 Thrive sectors in mind, our communities can identify symptoms of trauma that are contributing to opioid use and abuse in their own communities. And by taking a deeper dive into each of these sectors, our communities can recognize symptoms of trauma that may have been missed in an overarching process and engage partners from each sector to increase capacity and build a trauma-informed team. The third lens, the ACER, builds upon our second lens, the Thrive, by utilizing a trauma-informed approach aimed at reducing trauma and promoting resiliency in communities. After using the Thrive to identify and assess the structural forces acting against efforts to improve the opioid epidemic in their communities, the ACER provides a tool for our communities to plan and implement strategies that will create the necessary conditions to recognize trauma, heal from trauma, and build resiliency against the impact of trauma. Together, as the CCIM4C learning community, and by applying each lens to our collective impact approach, we are striving to enhance our efforts and improve our strategies for addressing the opioid epidemic in Ohio. To do so, our leadership team developed a statewide theory of change to guide our work. But we know that a top-down approach is not the most effective way to plan and create conditions for change within a community. With this in mind, each of our funded communities will also be creating their own theories of change and community-level strategic plans for prevention, treatment, and recovery supports. Each community will also develop a BHAG plan, a big, hairy, audacious goal plan, to focus on one particularly sticky, structural issue that's creating trauma and disproportionately contributing to the opioid epidemic in that community. With plans spanning prevention, treatment, and recovery supports, we hope that this concentrated, multi-sector effort will move the needle on these structural issues that often seem impossible to address. This initiative is lofty. As a learning community, we're aiming high. But through a collective effort, and by using a toolbox of complementary frameworks and tools, and creating local roadmaps for action, we can change the course of the opioid epidemic in Ohio. Together, we can change.